What is up, everybody? Thank you all so much for checking out the video. Appreciate you. Hope it finds you doing well. My name's David Martin. For those of you who don't know me, quick little background. I'm 25 years old. I own a personal training studio where I coach people. Also do a little bit of online clients as well. Graduated from Ohio State in 2019 with a degree in health promotion, nutrition, and exercise science. Worked at a commercial gym, did that whole type of thing. And today we're talking about my thoughts on the Squat Every Day program. So I squatted every day from May of 2015 to August of 2017. 2 years plus a little bit of squatting every day. So quite a good bit of experience on this program. And, a couple years, about 5 years to reflect back on my time doing that. The program in itself has been around for a very long time. It was originally brought to popularity by the Bulgarian weightlifting team back in the day, I want to say the 50s or the 60s, where essentially these lifters would squat every day, sometimes even twice a day for the Olympic weightlifting team, where they're doing the snatch and the clean and jerk. So they had to take a very high frequency training approach, not only to practice the specificity of their sport, but also to just get very strong. And of course, there's some allegations of drug abuse, or I guess steroid use. It's not really drug abuse, but which was technically illegal, and it still is in the Olympics. I started doing this program when Corey Gregory, who at the time was, Muscle Farm Prez on social media about it's been 6-7 years ago when he popularized it. A little bit about my training history at that time. Up until then, I was having great training with a friend of mine who was going to play Division I football. And he was like, hey, man, I know I didn't play football. He's like, I know you're really dedicated in the gym, and it would be great to hit these workouts together and really push each other. And we made great gains during that time. He was a great training partner. And one of my other friends let me know about this Squat Every Day program, and I'm like, hey, I'm not the strongest guy out there, so if I can put in this work and if I can do the extra mile, I'll get stronger. And that's kind of like the illusion that I had, which you come to find out isn't necessarily true. So I started squatting every day, like I said, in May of 2015. I still worked out with my football friend, but the program was just slightly different. And I was fully bought into the hype of this program. I had some knowledgeable coaches that said, this probably isn't going to be the best because you can't really recover from this program. And I was like, hey, I'm going to give it a shot either way. Should have listened to them, to make a long story short, but I was extremely bought in. And like I said, I did this for 2 years. So the summer of 2015, when I was squatting every day, I was working 5 to 6 days a week doing concrete, so construction, very hard job, waking up at like 5 a.m. to go train and then go work 8 hours in the summer heat. That's kind of like the level of dedication that I had. And it was hard to really understand it or explain it now, but I really was of the belief that, the harder I worked, the more return I'd see. I didn't really consider the fact that recovery is hard when you're working that type of job and you're squatting every day. I maybe didn't see the whole picture because I just wasn't educated on everything involved. And the reason why I'm making this video is because I want to talk about the pros, the cons of this program, if you should do it for a time or if you should just avoid it altogether. To give you some more of the backstory, I started college at Ohio State in 2015, woke up every morning early and squatted. Trained with the guy who told me about this program, and we had a great time hitting those workouts throughout that whole year. So I made pretty good progress, got stronger. And I feel like maybe it wasn't the best program, but I did see results. You probably could have done, you could have thrown any program my way at 18 years old, having trained for 2 years at the time, and I would have seen results on any program. So that's an important caveat to make. But I do feel like I became very, very good at squatting. Like my form is still I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm not the strongest guy out there, but I do have really good form on squats. And all of that work contributed to my really good form. Also, I will say with Corey Gregory, kind of having the mindset that he did and preaching that as well, I was really locked in. Sometimes maybe too locked into my training versus my academics, and I let training kind of take over when I should have maybe just got better sleep or studied a little bit longer. But I was really locked in overall, and I felt like I had a good amount of discipline for an 18-year-old college student at a campus where partying is very pervasive. I'm not mad about that at all. I got my fair share of good times in partying, but that Squat Everyday program, you got to be locked in on your recovery, on your nutrition, on your hydration. You can't be getting plastered all the time if you're trying to squat every day. So I'm very grateful for that. I squatted once again all through my sophomore year, waking up early, squatting every day. And then that summer, I actually went to Old School Gym, which is right outside of Columbus, Ohio, and I trained with the 4 a.m. crew. Corey Gregory is the head of that. So basically what that looked like is I was waking up at 3 a.m. to go train at 4 a.m. And a diet that he was a proponent of and kind of based his platform around was called anabolic fasting. So doesn't really make a lot of sense because fasting in itself is not anabolic. But essentially what you would do is wake up at 3 a.m. after probably not getting enough sleep because it's just very hard to go to bed at 10 p.m., which would really only give you 5 hours of sleep. But that's when I always tried to be in bed, was 10 at the latest. So I would get, maybe 6 hours of sleep on a good night. But you wake up at 3 a.m., you train, and then you don't eat because it's a fasting style diet until noon. So you have that whole anabolic window, regardless of what you think on it, was out the window rather. And I got very, very lean squatting every day and going by this diet. I was probably the most shredded I've ever been, or one of the most shredded I've ever been. Not the best physique I've ever had, but at a certain point, I noticed with the combination of squatting every day, waking up extremely early, and not really fueling myself properly for strength, my strength started to tank. And inevitably this would have happened. I knew that it was going to happen, but at one point I missed the 335 on squats, and that's when I kind of fell out of love with the Squat Everyday program. And I think that's what's eventually going to happen to anyone who tries this program for a prolonged period of time. You're either going to see a huge plateau in your strength numbers for squats, or you're going to get hurt. And I think the reason for this is it's just extremely hard to manage fatigue properly when you squat every day. So that's the biggest downside. And you'll see other YouTubers, even currently, that are squatting every day, that have got a big following from it, but right now, I'm starting to see that I guess success of the program start to dwindle because I don't think it's something you can really do forever. I'm not even sure that Corey Gregory, I don't really keep up with it anymore. I don't think he squats every day. I might be wrong on that. But that's one thing where I feel like eventually time will get the better of you when you're trying to squat every day. I guarantee that the Bulgarian weightlifters who saw a lot of success on this program, of course they were using performance-enhancing drugs, but they didn't do this year-round. They didn't do it for extremely prolonged periods of time because it's just very hard to find that sustainability with this program. And I think that's the biggest knock on it. After that, I switched to a different style of programming, and I immediately liked it better, and I started to see my strength return. It's worth saying I started eating in more of a caloric surplus. I did my first dedicated bulk, but I really liked the switch up in programming, and I got a better novel effect from changing my program for the first time in 2 years. At the end of the day, I've seen my best strength gains training 4 times a week on an upper-lower type split where I focused on squat, bench, and deadlift specifically, and I performed pretty well in a powerlifting meet when I've competed. Or I don't think I would have performed quite as good if I kept squatting every day and tried to peak for a powerlifting meet that way. Because at the end of the day, if you're trying to peak for a powerlifting meet, fatigue management is very important for a peaking process. And when you're squatting every day, that's a lot of fatigue in the mix. So for my powerlifters out there, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this close to a meet. Weightlifters, I do think, can handle higher squat frequency. Of course, this is going to change as they peak for a meet as well, because it's so specific to their sport. Basically, squatting is only a third of powerlifting, but I think it constitutes way more than that of weightlifting, because if you think about it, you're front squatting as you catch the clean and overhead squatting as you catch a snatch. So it is very, very important and specific for weightlifters. And I think while I wouldn't program a weightlifter to squat every day, you could get away with squatting 4 times a week, different variations, and see that success. I will say that's one thing that Corey Gregory structured in the programming is a lot of variations in squatting, and I became very good at those. I also saw a good amount of lower body hypertrophy, but mostly because I was such a hip dominant squatter, I got really big glutes, and my quads are still lacking to this day due to all of the squat volume that I did. At the end of the day, guys, I think squat every day is viable, but I would only try it if you're looking for a big challenge for about 30 days max. If you try it for 30 days, I think you're going to be able to, you might become a little fatigued, a little bit, I wouldn't even say overtrained, but a little bit run down toward the end. But the specificity is undeniable. You will become much better at squatting if you squat every day for around a month. I would structure that by adding in variations such as front squats, low bar back squats, high bar back squats, and like we did at Old School Gym, squatting through bands was cool. I think that's about all I would do if I were to run a program like that again. Overall, guys, it was a valuable learning experience for me, and it taught me not to be dogmatic. I was so bought into this idea, to this brand, that I basically gave up opportunities to be social in college. You know, I told my friends I couldn't go out because I had to train the next day. I put a lot of money into supplements that I might not have needed if I would have structured my programming differently. So I have my fair amount of good lessons that I learned from my time squatting every day, but also a lot of mistakes along the way too. And that's all about growing and maturing as someone who loves the gym. But those are my thoughts for squatting every day. Wouldn't recommend it for a long period of time, but it definitely has some benefits to it. So thank you all once again for watching. If you wouldn't mind, hit this video with a like, leave any comments you might have for me down in the comment section below. Hit that subscribe button to see my videos on a very regular basis. And if you're trying to do the most, hit the notification bell, share this video around with your friends. I'd really appreciate helping grow the channel that way. I'll catch you in the next one, guys.